Are you creating useful reports or are you keeping yourself busy doing the administration of data management? Hey, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. Anytime you produce a report for a client or you're doing research around a sales letter or writing a report, anytime that you're using information in a transformational way to create some kind of deliverable, anything other than producing the deliverable is a distraction. So I've got an Obsidian database. Now this is a personal knowledge management database, just like Rome Research, and there's a couple other platforms out there. It's what we've talked about in other programs as far as organizing your body of work so that you can research and recycle the materials you have in the past. I have 22,900 documents in this particular repository, which includes the results of all the articles I published over the last 22 years, all the special reports, any significant letter I've written to clients. I include here all my research, notes, and other related documentation. Now, what's powerful about a knowledge management system is that I can go in and research in my database, and it really is a database, even if it's just a file in a directory. You can search those files and find out when was the last time you wrote about a certain offer, what kinds of headlines have you used in the past, kind of like mining your swipe file. But here's a challenge. There's very often uh, the emotional desire or the dopamine reward system to go in and just simply organize your files rather than use those files to get results. So what we're going to talk about here is 5 tips to focus your energy and effort on the outcomes you desire rather than the common distractions, which includes social media and reaching out and doing things that don't really produce sales and leads. Now, as a direct response marketer, my focus is on leads and then sales. So sometimes I'll talk about getting subscribers to a channel, but I'm only getting subscribers to a channel so that I can make an offer to them, or I can audience match, or I can do something to get them to become a lead. And then once we have leads, we care about the leads that are most likely to become customers. This is a consistent model. Now, here's the challenge. We use content to attract these people. We need to know which content is going to focus on the attraction. So I'm going to assume that you understand the concept of writing some kind of piece, whether it's a sales letter, report, whether it's a lead generation piece, an article, some kind of deliverable. And you're creating this deliverable for yourself or a client. So the number one tip I'm going to give you is that the most important thing for you to do each day is to finish the deliverable. Now, if you have a editorial process, which I highly recommend, you want to move the document at hand. So you have a contract with a client for a sales letter. You want to move that document at hand closer to deliverable rather than create a new document somewhere. So uh, I don't know how to explain this without sounding offensive, but a lot of times I do get questions and people are not focusing on the one thing that gets them results. They want to know a new one thing that gets them results. But if you already have a client, the one thing that gets you paid is delivering whatever you agreed to deliver to that client. It's not additional research. It's not a new way of writing headlines. It's not another social media channel. It's not what might be. It is what you've promised to deliver. Now, when you're writing on your own deadline, so maybe you're producing a book for credibility purposes. So you're going to publish a book that positions you as an expert, and you know that that book in the hands of prospects will get you assignments, but you're over there writing articles on LinkedIn for some reason, and you're putting stuff up on the social medias, and you're Twittering and attending seminars. You haven't written the book yet. So I'm speaking from experience here. The second piece of advice is not only know what you are supposed to be doing, but make an agreement with yourself to get it done. So you could have the external force that is to get the piece of work done, or you can have the internal force. But I would argue that the internal force that has to do with lining up that next customer. So you're going to get in, you're going to serve the customer you have, but you got to be lining up that next customer while you go. Best way to do that is to have content in some sort of sales funnel or automation system to keep that moving. And if you don't treat yourself like a client and make specific commitments to yourself, you're going to end up chasing a piece of work You'll do the work for the client, you'll deliver, you might even get paid, and then you don't have another client, and now you're struggling to get ramped up again to generate leads to generate the new next assignment, and then you're kind of like fighting back and forth. And so, what is a tool that facilitates being able to write on assignment and to write specifically for the outcome you desire? And that's tip number 3, is to have a central repository for all of your research, all your materials. Now, even if you just are working on a client project and you create a project folder where you store all the client's copy and their controls and then all the research related to that, and then the headlines that you wrote out, and then the customer avatars and all that, and you put it in just one place, that is a great starting point. But technology today lets us do large repositories. Like I said, I got 22,000 files in this repository. I've got years of projects. I've got folders so I use a project folder system for my products. And then I also have client project folders so that if I'm doing a job for a client, it's going to be packaged in its own folder, which is a subfolder of well, it's a subfolder inside of a larger structure. And then for my projects side, which is the deliverables as far as reports, products and services, or maybe even a product or service I'm co-developing with a client, that'll be in a project directory. Those two directories provide me both the administrative side and the deliverable side. But again, that's a central means of organization. Tip number 3, central means of organization. Um, Next, you want a way to search those materials, because we don't need to have everything in a perfect format. We don't need to have the right headers and metadata or anything like that if we can search the data set or the past files. So again, when you have PDF files, you probably need to use what's called optical character recognition, OCR, to turn those from uh, binary files to include some kind of text information so they can be searched. And I do that with scripts. I do that with the Adobe products. You need to make sure you're storing your documents in a format that can be easily read by your current operating system. One of the challenges that I had with 22 years of files is that I had some text files, which are very easy to read. I had some rich text format that was very easy to read and convert to Markdown. But I also had old versions of Microsoft Office, Microsoft Works, Microsoft, old versions of Word, WordPerfect, a lot of different editors, open document format, a lot of different things that had to be converted. And so I'm now in the last couple of years using Markdown as my primary means of storing documents because it allows me some formatting, but it also is very thin. I don't have to convert anything. It's just a text file with words in it. So again, you're going to have that central repository. You're going to have some system for writing. The 5th tip is that you need a writing schedule. So when you get all these files in one place, it's very exciting to see what you've got. Now, Obsidian lets me do this graph view, and it's awesome, and it shows mathematical relationships between ideas and concepts, and puts these little bubbles on a screen, and then the bubbles have lines between them. It's a network diagram, and it's so exciting from a just general not getting any work done perspective. I also have plugins that do artificial intelligence, so I can take a document and then I can open up the plugin and I can find out all of the documents that are closely related to the document I have up on the screen, and now I have more information that I can do anything with, and I still haven't delivered the article or whatever it is to the client. Do you see what I'm talking about here? I don't want you to be distracted by the bells and whistles of technology, because you can. And I was at a seminar, and Ted Nicholas, and this was not a seminar a long time ago, but he did pass away. But Ted Nicholas was talking about how he writes his first draft on a notepad. Now he tells us, he sets up the story. He's sitting out on his porch and he's overlooking a beautiful scenery, and he's writing his first draft on a notepad, and then he handed it to a typist, and then he goes and writes a different document. And then when the typist is done, he'll go and edit the materials provided by the typist, and then they'll type up the changes that were made. And then going through that editorial process, the document was eventually done and delivered to the client. So he used administrative staff to help facilitate and to keep the work on track. Other writers I've heard about will write in the computer and they'll sit down at a computer. The computer is not connected to the internet. The computer has nothing attached to it but a printer, and they'll save all their files on a floppy disk and or whatever, USB drive or something like that. And they will only have that one project in front of them. And so that little USB has all the project work on it, and they'll put it on there and they'll work, and that's all they're working. Now, I think that's incredibly dangerous because you'll lose the USB if you have data corruption or something like that. I like to be in an environment that has cloud storage, that has other options. But again, are you being distracted? Now, there are other tools that I use. So I can use Python to do deep data mining. I can use machine learning tools to look at uh, topic clusters, bags of words. There's just all kinds of cool stuff that can be done. But again, I got to constantly remind myself, is this producing the deliverable that my client is paying for me to produce? Is this producing a deliverable that I can generate more clients with? Is this solving a problem for my newsletter subscribers? Is this answering a specific question that someone asked? Does this have relevance to the marketing campaigns that I'm managing? Okay, these are important things you got to ask yourself, and they're very valuable because when you go work with a client, they face the same problem you've got. They're hearing about TikTok and Instagram, and I've been in this long enough. The revolutionary change that the next new platform comes out, they're going to use all the news channels are going to use all the same language they used before. Right now, the big kick is artificial intelligence, and it's February 2023 right now. I guarantee you that it's going to get all hyped up, and then it's going to fail to meet expectations, and then some companies are going to crash, just like what happened with cryptocurrency, and then the next new thing would come out. Now, again, we're marketers, we're helping boost that next new thing, but ultimately, if you're distracted by the next shiny object, then you're not getting any work done. And if you're not getting any work done, it's hard to be an effective copywriter or marketer. Now, the personality of a lot of the people that I work with and a lot of my longtime subscribers is that they cannot be solo. Okay. So they want to be a solo entrepreneur. They want to be their own boss. They want to do their own thing. But being isolated socially draws them to these platforms that promise social connection. So a lot of what works for my clients is they take the 5 points that I just discussed here, and then they add like a personal assistant or a project manager. And so that project manager will keep track of both internal and external projects. And that's one of the reasons I have this project folder. And then you'll assign every project to code, and there'll be someone other than you who's responsible for pipelining those projects. So if there's a schedule change or something like that, or there's a meeting to be scheduled, or there's a change in the requirements, or there's research that you've farmed out to a third party, or you're using an AI tool, they're helping you collect all that in the right place at the right time, and then you brief on a schedule every morning. So if you're working on 5 sales letters, you get every one of those 5 sales letters done on time, within the expectations of the customer, because all you do is focus on the sales letters. Your assistant is helping you with the navigation and answering the phone and addressing emails and things while you're spending a good solid 4 to 8 hour block on the project at hand. You're going to get paid faster, you're going to get paid more consistently, and then you'll be able to take on larger projects because the focus is there. When you've got all your files in one place, now you don't have to do the initial search. So let's say you're going to write a sales letter, and you've written sales letters in this area for the last 5 years, and you now want to see um, kind of some samples of ideas and concepts that might work, some summaries of articles that you've read in the past or that you've got on this topic. I would prefer you give that to a researcher. Now, having your entire repository in one place, you need to trust the researcher so that they don't rip you off and take all your data, because 22,000 files is less than 2 gigs, and it easily fits on a USB drive. And you certainly want to have some access controls associated with this. But again, there's artificial intelligence tools that help you mine your own system. I used to have an assistant that would go through my file cabinets and go through the stuff on my systems here and pull up for me probably 5 or 6 examples when I'm getting ready to write a piece for somebody or I'm getting ready to do an internal project. And it took a little while, but today I just pull up a little plugin that has some text mining algorithms, and it just scans the system and gives me a list. Now, it takes seconds, where before it took hours. And so if you have the right system set up and you have the right platform in place, and again, these platforms don't have to cost you anything. You don't need to get, you can do this in SharePoint, you can do this in Google Drive, you can do this in a lot of different platforms. You don't have to have some fancy software to get this done. You just have to understand the five concepts that we went over here so that you're focusing the majority of your time and energy, whether it's an information management system like a database or it's your personal knowledge management system, you're focusing on deliverables. You're deliberately going in, researching topics, concepts, ideas, following some formula. Then you create the sales letter, the report, the article, whatever it is that you're producing as the deliverable. You're able to produce that without the tool getting in the way. So I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, and this has been about being more productive. You can 10x your productivity following what we just shared here today. Now, again, I understand everybody's systems are set up differently, and if you have specific questions about what might work to improve your own productivity, or if you already have a small team of writers and you're looking for ideas on collaborative editing, I do have programs on both of those elements, and you can visit me at www.adbriefings.co.uk and simply go to the contact page to ask your questions. Now, there's also a newsletter on that site, which is for free. The newsletter is for free, and you can subscribe to that newsletter and get more tips and tricks to improve your business of copywriting, to grow your agency so that you can have consistent and strong incomes no matter what the economy is. Somebody is advertising. Why not hire you as the copywriter or the marketer that helps them do that? And of course, with these 5 tips that I gave you here today, you'll be able to deliver more consistently, which is what every client loves. So thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. More importantly, if you have any questions on how to build your copywriting business, then contact me at www.adbriefings.co.uk so I can get you some of these resources, because I can literally take your question, run through my database. If anybody's ever asked the question before, I have a starting point. Then I can write up a reply or record a podcast for you, and you'll get answers with authority and experience to help you write better sales copy. Until next time, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips.